It is Friday afternoon, 4:20 p.m. So you know what that means? It means another brand new episode of Because Cannabis. Hey, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining the show. My name is BC, Wehman. Dustin, how you doing, buddy?
Doing amazing. Beautiful Friday.
Beautiful Friday. It is a beautiful Friday. It is decent weather for a fall Friday here in Northeast Ohio. A lovely October weather. Got a great show. For you. Really excited to talk today. But Dustin, I have a question for you. First off, you know, we live in Northeast Ohio, and so we're seasonally based. And so you got to kind of keep the lawn going. How long into the year do you actually like mow? Like, do you keep your lawn pretty tight? Are you one when it gets to be like September, fall, you're like, psh, done, bro, like not mow it anymore? Like, where are you at when it comes to outdoor care? Do you have mums outside right now? Are you going all in? Like, what's your whole October end of season gardening yardish vibe?
You know what? I live in a kind of a rural area, but everybody really, really keeps up all their shit. So
all right.
I cannot be I'm that new guy on the road. I look like disheveled every day of my life.
Neighbor peer pressure to keep your stuff up to snuff, as they say.
It works. It definitely works.
Do you enjoy the process of it? Do you enjoy the process of doing all your yard work, or is it a chore for you? Necessary chore or chore that you just don't mind? Let me rephrase that.
I love it if things weren't so busy. The yard, I have close to 3 acres, 2.5 acres or so, and it's a lot. It's 2 days, a week to manage it. But at the same point, I kind of like that it forces me to kind of relax. I get my best thinking done on the mower, and it's not bad. I like it a lot.
It's something I enjoy. I enjoy a lot, but it's something I go back and forth on whether I want someone else to do it. I chose, and this makes me sound like I'm hoity-toity, but I've chosen to mow my own lawn. We probably could get someone to come by and put their blades on the grass, but I'm not feeling it. Like, I'm particular, as you could probably imagine, about it. But I was watching this video the other day, Dustin, of this kind of like robotic, like a Roomba for the lawn. It's basically a robot lawnmower. Like, they're essentially trying to automate mowing the lawn, like doing it for me. And at first, I was like, yeah, like that is the jam. Like, thank goodness, no more mowing. Like, let me just charge this little dude up, hit the button. It like learns by infrared lasers where my thing's at, does it all for me. Then I stopped and said, like, do I want that? Like, what if he messes up? Do I how do I treat? I don't know. It was really back and forth on whether I fully wanted to automate this process. And so I think that's a question. Like, a lot of people ask themselves, like, how much do I do by hand? Like, how much do I automate? Like, which aspects of my life or of my job or of anything I'm doing are ones that I should continue to do by hand? We talk about this all the time in our industry, right? Even like as simplistic as trimming the plant, putting scissors on it versus shoving it into a machine, which has benefits because it'll get those things. Would you hire the robot, or would you hire? I don't know. It's hired. It doesn't have a job. Doesn't have a paycheck. Would you buy or purchase one of the robot lawnmowers, or do you got to get out there and do it yourself?
The only place I've ever seen them in use is in rural Michigan, like up in the thumb. And out there, it makes sense because, I don't know. I'm terrified of small dogs and little children and stuff with a robot lawnmower.
So you're more like a Skynet kind of thing, taking it over for that?
I would feel much better if I lived in the middle of nowhere where all I had was like a couple cows or something running around.
Jason, we'll get to who you are in a second when you're promoting. The first most important question we have to ask: what one thing do you refuse as someone who is really into automation, like trying to make back office more easy for people from bookkeep.com? What thing do you refuse to automate? Like, what do you have to do by hand, no matter what, no matter how much machinery or simplicity comes up in life? What one thing are you like, no, bro, I am still going to do this on my own?
There's not much that I try to automate everything, especially around work. Unfortunately, but what you can't automate is working with your team, talking to customers. You can't automate your. I think even some of your marketing, it needs to be more real. And so a lot of people want to automate all around marketing, which at huge scale, yes, you can do some of those things, but otherwise, most things can be automated. And I don't have a lawn, so I can't do that. But I love the idea of getting the Roomba, which I still don't have in my house, but I don't vacuum myself. So my house is beautifully clean, but I don't do any of it.
Oh, damn. All right. Maybe that's the way to go too. I don't know. I don't know which parts. I don't want to automate driving. That's for sure. I know we're in self-driving
Right.
cars. I feel like that's one thing I always am going to have because I'm 50, right? I've just been my whole life doing that. I'm always going to have to drive with my hands on the wheel. I think no matter how
Yeah.
much I see it, how much technology, even in the, next, say 10 years, and it exponentially increases. That part still freaks me out a little bit.
And I've done it. I drove a Tesla recently for the first time. That was really scary, but it does follow the road and it does really track as you turn. But it is scary. I kept my hand on the wheel the whole time.
I would too. Welcome, Jason from Bookkeep, bookkeep.com. Thank you for joining us. I'm terrible at bios. Like we did our research clearly, but why don't you give us a quick bio? Let us know a little bit about yourself. No lawn? I got to know where you're at with no lawn. I don't understand that. That's my whole life with lawns. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jason.
Well, I live in Brooklyn, and also I have a house in Joshua Tree, so my lawn is sand, and it's there's not much upkeep there, but we have a watering system for some of the plants, but I've been in essentially automation. I've been doing software around small business software for 20 years. I even started in retail. I started at Price Waterhouse before that, but then I went into payments, which is applicable to what we're doing here. I had a payments company called Internet Cash that was the go-go 1999 time. And then I opened up, and I worked on Wall Street for a little bit, but then I opened up a wine store, grocery store, learned a lot about retail, a lot about small business. That was a pretty big business. It was 100 employees. It's still in business. I don't own it anymore. But that led me to be like, this stupid point of sale systems that we're using suck. And the people selling them to me are so stupid and just really just not, this was, 15, 16 years ago. And I used all of them for a while. And then I realized like, it wasn't so much the software, it was on a machine in my business that kept crashing or would, might break. The database might break. Like my whole business is on this machine. So I started looking for a cloud-based point of sale system in 2008. Didn't find one. This was before Square, believe it or not. And I started a company called Shopkeep, and we became the first iPad POS. Square was happening at the same time, but they weren't in retail. Jack Dorsey was able to raise a whole lot more money than me, but my company was called Shopkeep, and it did very well.
I actually sold. Back in the day, I was looking at your software for a couple clients. I remember Shopkeep.
We were very big in coffee shops and vape stores.
Yes.
I think Square wouldn't do vape stores, and we ended up.
I owned a retail head shop.
So exactly. So I think that was we just got picked up by a lot of vape shops at the time. But we were, a cloud-based point of sale. We were very strong, only small business focused, unlike Square, which was more consumer swiping at the time. Square got very smart around small business, obviously, and that's where they are now. But so I know a lot about retail. I know a lot of, all the functions of retail. I haven't run a cannabis dispensary, but we at Bookkeep work with a lot of them. And now what we do at Bookkeep, which is important to say, is we automate from the front of house to the back of house. So and when I say back of house, I mean accounting. So it's a very underserved space because every business owner is like, my accountant will just take care of that. They just do that. My bookkeeper does it. They don't know what the bookkeepers do. And the bookkeepers are so beaten down and so miserable because they have to do so much manual work. They have to request passwords again because they get logged out. I need this reporter. I can't get your books done. And the owners never give them what they need. And they're just so used to being shit on all the time. And what we're trying to do is help them get that data automatically, reformat it properly into what they need for accounting, because it comes out of point of sale and e-commerce in the wrong, not necessarily the wrong way, but not balanced in the right setup for what accountants need. And we automate those postings to QuickBooks or Xero or other accounting systems. So, and we do that for cannabis dispensaries as well. We're very big in e-commerce, Square, Shopify, all those systems as well. We're really experts in revenue accounting.
We talk a lot on the show about how the ancillary businesses of the industry are actually more like the unsung heroes of the industry. It's like everybody wants to touch the plant matter, but what it really comes down to, it's the infrastructure that's supporting that happening. And, I guess when it comes to your software, I looked and saw how many different solutions you integrate with. I mean, it almost makes me sound, it seems like if I talked to you and brought something to the company and said, we need to use this, this is quite popular service elsewhere, can you integrate with this API? Are you guys able to do that type of like custom integrations, or is it more just this? Yeah.
We don't think of it as custom. You know, any front end sales platform, we will connect to, you know, if a client wants us to build to it, if there's an API available, right? So we work with, in the cannabis space, you know, Trees, we have an API for the Trees point of sale. It's a very popular and great point of sale. And we work with a lot of their clients because they have an API. But we've also built for Kova and for Greenbits, and Blaze has an API, but Kova and Greenbits, we basically can just ingest the PDF daily reports that it outputs. We ingest that report and turn that into accounting numbers. So, you know, the bookkeeper is going to log in every day and download that report and then go and type it into QuickBooks. So we automate that, and what our goal is to really get all the cannabis point of sales to be just like, either they can post to us, but a lot of the times, this is the problem. The point of sale companies are selling to the owners of the business. The owners of the business want to sell more at the register. When someone says, yeah, but the accountants need this, the accountants don't buy the software. The bookkeeper, the back office, they're, you know, so we don't get a lot of movement with the cannabis dispenser, with the point of sale companies to basically say, hey, give us an endpoint so we can grab this data automatically. It'll really, you know, it maybe won't sell you more, but it'll keep your customers happy.
Yes.
And because it's always just the back office is just never really a focus of the point of sale companies. But we're working with about 5 cannabis point of sales right now, and we'll take in data any way that we can. But our system is, you know, designed from an accountant standpoint. So depending on the system, we even we also have some integrations with some payment providers also in cannabis. So there's some payment providers that do ACH for online ordering. And we capture those batch deposits and we help them decipher, you know, when you're getting, I'm not sure the exact front end that they're using, but these ACH deposits for online orders can be bulk from 2 weeks of transactions, and some transactions that didn't settle from a week or 2 before that. So we help them decipher, hey, this deposit is for these particular sales days, and match it up to the sales days. Because when you're dealing with ACH for online ordering, sometimes they just let the orders fail because, you know, that
Yes.
there's no chargebacks, and sometimes, you know, they want to fulfill the order. So we help try to reconcile those payment deposits to the sales systems as well.
Has it been this experience? So you have, and Dustin alluded to this, right? Like these ancillary businesses in this industry, like the cannabis industry, and really in any industry. I mean, I know we talk about cannabis here, but we've been doing this, both of us, long before cannabis. So really any industry, like ancillary businesses kind of help support the main thing, right? The plan exists, and all these other companies, including accounting software, including backend, including POS through places like Trees and Dutchie and them, are important to the process. But what I found, right, both in dealing with large scale vendors, being here at the Cleveland School of Cannabis, dealing with a lot of students who are looking to be entrepreneurs, who are looking to get started, this type of stuff, like when we teach that class, I teach an entrepreneurial startup class, Jason. And when we get into there and we get into our accounting section, it's eyes glazed over, and not for the stereotypically pun kind of intended way. It's, I get it. Like they get it. Like the understanding cash in, cash out. Well, we start talking cash accounting, accrual accounting, single entry, double entry. Then it becomes this, huh? And it's not even a it's a, I don't understand it, so I don't appreciate it moment. So when you have that kind of objections, like when you have the objections are why this, why can't I just simply write it down? Like I can manage my cash flow. I can manage my inventory, especially when you get into inventory, which is where this becomes even more crucial. Like what are some, I guess, kind of common objections that you've had from people who, and it doesn't have to be cannabis specific, just automation of this aspect. And then some of those like ways, you know, if you've kind of presented of what Bookkeep at bookkeep.com does to kind of take care of that problem.
Well, yeah. And it's sad that I, for whatever reason, always was good with accounting and somehow liked accounting. But it is so vital. I mean, but I run my own businesses, and I've always been able, you know, often I've done my own books, and really you should do your own books. You know, a business owner who's opening up a wine store, opening up a cannabis dispensary, you should still do your own books. At the very least, you should be making sure they're reconciled and checking
every
them at
month.
the end of the month.
Yes.
Every single month, because if that's kind of a check, just like we check to make sure you got paid, you need to check to make sure that you are not getting ripped off internally or making a mistake. It could be as simple as we didn't set up the sales tax right in the point of sale. So now we have to pay sales tax, but we didn't really collect it. So now we're gonna have to take a hit on our profit. There's so many things that go into the business that are around accounting. I mean, sales tax is accounting, and excise tax and all they have to pay for in cannabis. But it's also, you have to look at it as a fun thing. You want to know how you're doing. It's really, accounting is how am I doing, and setting up some, understanding those metrics and understanding how the money comes in and gets booked is important to understand to run any business. And I see it all the time, though, especially when I deal with business owners. They just say, oh, my bookkeeper does that. And I don't really understand how you can be start a business without, you don't have to get into all the details and understand what accrual versus cash is. But the simple thing about that is accrual is, if it happened today, whatever day it happened on, that's the day you book it on. It doesn't matter if you got paid for it or not. And that is retail, because you pay sales tax on an accrual basis. Whatever you collected in sales tax was what you sold that month. So you're on accrual basis if you're in retail. If you're a lawyer and you don't get paid for 3 months, maybe you don't want to book that income unless you get paid. But in retail, you're on accrual basis, and that just means if the economic thing happened on that day, regardless of it hits your bank account, that's accrual accounting, and you want to put it into your books. And that's what Bookkeep does, is we take your sales from that day. You're not going to get paid for them because your credit, well, in cannabis, generally it's cash, but if it's an ACH payment, or there's the gift card stuff that they do, and a debit at the point of sale, but those come a couple days later. But you book those sales every single day. You don't wait. I mean, I actually have a silly video on YouTube that no one's really watched, and it's called "Deposits Are Not Income." Granted, people aren't so excited about accounting in this world, but basically, a lot of even bookkeepers will see, okay, I just got $900 deposited from whatever bank for my payments. I'm going to book that as income on that day. Well, that was Monday, and those payments happened Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and those might have been in the previous month, because Monday is now the beginning of the new month, and they do it wrong because it's not necessarily their fault. Sometimes, like I was telling you before,
it just takes a long time to process. It's not just you, you're dealing with another end of this thing, another company, another, entry point.
But the bookkeepers, though, and this happens, cannabis operators, dispensaries definitely have finance teams. I mean, I work with them, we talk to them, and it's great because they do get audited. They have to get their books done right. They have to get them done quickly so they can get audited, because they do get audited. And that's a good thing. And that's why they do like to have automation, to make sure that the books get done quickly and accurately. But in other businesses, often the bookkeeper just doesn't have access to the front end sales system. So their only option is to see what's hitting the bank account. And then so they just say, well, it hit the bank account that day. I don't know what it is. I'll book it as income. So often, we're trying to help solve that situation by making it easier for the bookkeeper to request access using our tool, which will then just suck the data out and post it properly. But it is, it's.
So then, are you seeing bookkeeper? Is Bookkeep like the master and everything talks to it? Or is it somewhere else down the chain? And in addition to that, are you guys just simplifying the rules that you would write in QuickBooks for the same types of automation? And that you're just saying, if this type of deposit from this person comes in, automatically set it to this, but your team is the one writing those rules.
Yeah, we write the rules, and we're accountants. I mean, I'm not officially an accountant, but I've been doing it for so long, and my head of product is a CPA. But no, what we do is we take it from those front end systems. So all the systems we connect to, and we're trying to connect to as many as possible. But then the proper, accounting, or best practice in accounting, is get what the system says was happening, and then get the payment, and then see that you got paid for what it said. That's the reconciliation process. So the cannabis point of sale, so Tree's point of sale told us that you did $6,000 on Sunday. And we see that they took the money out. We might book also the movement of money into the change safe, and then someone checks the change safe the next day to make sure it's $6,000. We already booked the income for that which is income plus tips plus tax. but we book all those pieces of it, and then they make sure that the amount of money received for the tax plus income plus tips, whatever, matches that. Or when it hits the bank account, they can reconcile to our entries that we've created. We do have some systems like a PayPal or Stronghold Pay is the one in the cannabis space, where we then also we see the deposits and we match those up to the sales systems too. So it's essentially something that's a manual process that accountants have to do. They don't always do it because they're so caught up in managing the expense side of accounting that the revenue side is usually something left till the end of the month. Let me clean it up, and then it's a mess, and it's like, oh, I didn't do it for a month, and the numbers aren't off, and I'm gonna have to spend time figuring it out. So we just keep it running every single day so that at the end of the month, there's really not much to do. It should all line up.
And I think one of the biggest things that I guess people don't appreciate about good, strong financial accounting is your loss prevention. You mentioned a little bit earlier, protecting yourselves, and it's not always internal theft, right? Sometimes it is accidental. It's fat fingering on an invoice. It is doing these different types of things. But if you are paying attention to those numbers and you're able to see them on a daily basis, when you do have an issue, right, it's going to narrow down the pool of time or the people that you need to figure out and go look into. But having that understanding that if I can review my records, if I can balance my drawers, if I can balance all the cash in and out, including tips in a cash-centric business, right? Like that's a whole aspect that I don't think people understand. And I don't know, Dustin, you probably haven't so, but like I've had, because of various jobs, I've been around a lot of cash. Like I've been around a lot of cash, and I've been around a lot of bud, and each of them are pretty easy to steal. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, it's pretty easy to slip a paper bill, whatever type it is, into a pocket. It's pretty easy to slip a little bit of product into your pocket. And so what happens is the small stealing, right? So the $5, $10, the one or two times, it doesn't get caught. That's hard to catch overall because then, things happen in variances. It's the repeated behavior on maybe someone's aspect or someone's when they work on that shift. It's the overtime escalation of that $5, $10 turns to 20, turns to 50, turns to 100. And I have a very clear instance. I worked I was like a marketing director and buyer for a 15 store chain, not cannabis related, but just a store chain here in Northeast Ohio. And we did not have strong financial accounting. It's a very small department. We had one accounts person, right? Lovely woman, but she had to do receivable and payable. I think she was also HR, like small family run business. I was doing like 4 hats. And so this manager of a store, because we weren't reconciling as strong as they would, and because it was taking a long time before the home office got to what the daily store was doing and wasn't really reconciled because only one person, right? Job security. She was the only woman who knew how to do half of this stuff. This person had stolen over the course of time almost 11 grand, and it started at like 5, 10 and escalated, but they didn't until the big money disappeared, 10 grand at once. Like, oh my gosh. And realized that she was slowly, the person who was stealing from us, chipping away at it. And it was because no one really was taking the time, and there wasn't this like something like Bookkeep at bookkeep.com that was able to give you that. Do you have like kind of red flags? Is it smart enough to give warnings and little, kind of problematic areas to be looking at?
Well, we help get some of that data into QuickBooks. You have every store, it really is more in your point of sale system, that cash management. And there are tools, I ran a grocery store and I had way more cash. I mean, we had $15,000 on a Monday morning. It was way more than I wanted to deal with.
Yes.
I literally bought an ATM for $3,000, and we would put all the money into the ATM, and I only charged $1 for withdrawals. And we made $3,000 a month on that stupid ATM to the point where I had to then get money. We had to take money out of the bank to put it in the ATM.
You get the ATM business. That's what I realized.
Yeah, we were I happened to be in a very good spot, but managing cash is a problem. And that's something that these cannabis stores, we're more the electronics of what's happening at the register, but we do see the cash amounts. But inside the store, you have to have a really good process for cash management. And there are tools for, there's cash safes, that counting cash safes. There's a lot of those tools that people can use in those businesses.
Yeah, even beacons, inventory tracking based on movement of where it's at in the store. I mean, you could tell how many times it's taken out of the case, and thus, Bob, the employee, keeps taking it out really weird times, or there's definitely, as this technology gets, and more, what's exciting you about the technology in the industry? What are you looking forward to in the next 5 years? And what made you want to focus on small business as well?
Mm-hmm.
And you think about the little guy.
Well, I've always been doing automation for small business, but we're moving into bigger businesses. We also work with really big e-commerce providers and help with the accounting. For me, it's interesting you say what excites me. We have a new product where you can email us a PDF report and we'll turn into accounting, because people still print out, there's not the printed report, although we did just have one emailed to us as a photo of a printed report. This is still
so your your excitement is almost like, we're not going to talk about the Pony Express anymore. We're going to put the pony on a cart and then drive it across the thing.
No, it's like I said, it's an underserved space where accountants and bookkeepers have been dealing with manual processes and no one's really trying to fix it. So I'm really just trying to make even just take it a step better than what they're dealing with to help them. And that kind of excites me. Some of the AI that's available now that allows us, some of these tools that we use that allows us to read documents and turn them into accounting entries are pretty exciting, and working really well for us. That's some of the very new stuff that we're doing right now. But really, honestly, you would think that every point of sale system would have an API that I could get all the accounting data.
Yeah, right. You would. I would think today's culture, if you're creating any type of software, that's number one in terms of. It's the first thing.
And if you think about it, even at the larger level, and not if you think about it, people don't even realize this, but Uber Eats, for example, there are huge restaurant chains that use Uber Eats and DoorDash and all these other systems. There's no APIs for getting accounting data out. It's still export files and up, and
so you're turning a CSV. You're turning a CSV file into just another format so that some other software can read it properly.
Yeah, so that it turns it into accounting entries, because most systems don't put out data in the way accountants need it, in accrual format. And so we turn it into proper accrual entries, and we do it from CSV files. But I have tried to get them, do you have an API? Can we get access? And nobody talks to, and it's interesting because even those big chains of restaurants should be saying, hey, Uber Eats, hey, DoorDash, give us some automation here.
Yeah.
And they might be getting their own custom one depending on how much they yell, but we really want to be in the space to help just with the data flow in the accounting space.
So for those of that who are listening right now who don't know what API is, it's application programming interface. It is the basic almost routines or small applications that allow you to use or access certain portions of a company's services. So if you think of Google, accessing the Google Maps API allows me to call information from the Google Maps app, essentially, and bring data from or to it. And so when you think about today's modern technology on how we how we take away a lot of these inefficiencies with our daily operations, a lot of the time it starts with an API and goes into some type of automation. And so to not have that, you're just when you're buying software or looking into it for your company, that's one of the things you should be looking into, because it's saying, can I be future forward with this in any way? And are they giving me that option that I might be able to do something else with this or simplify?
But in my experience in retail and dealing with inventory, there was a great inventory tool that I used for my wine store, and because it had all the right reports for doing stock takes and for movement reports and all this stuff. And then they stopped building those and started building invoicing. And now you can order online through this portal. And I'm like, guys, I want the back office stuff. You did that well. But all these systems, what sells is what sells, right? So if they build you tools so you can sell more, you're going to buy their new product. So they always discount. They just always ignore the back office operation. So we are solely focused on helping, fix that hole in, okay, you sold it. Now you have to account for it. And we really want to automate that. And so that I find it very exciting. I love the space. I also love, accounting in general, but but it's just a huge opportunity, and it's a really underserved space. So I really like that about what we're doing.
I'm both amazed. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked by anything anymore in like modern technology, but I struggle sometimes someone to send me a PDF. It takes me like 19 Google tries and be like, Dustin, do you have Adobe? Like, I don't even know how to convert a PDF into any sort of writable document. The fact that you have software that's reading PDFs and pulling that data and putting it into accounting entries that it knows is pretty awesome. I got to say, that's pretty cool because I know, especially in cannabis, some small businesses, as they struggle to adapt to the technological evolution, which I think is part of it, right? We're dealing in an industry, especially the legacy growers and things like that, who are very uncomfortable with having data recorded, right? They're always still, we're still some government, anti-government feelings on there, the man bringing us down, especially in the legacy markets for sure. So I can see this really being adopted by, a lot of the young up and comers, maybe even especially in CBD and industrial hemp, which is a big kind of Delta 80 young market as well. I just am excited to see that maybe some of more of these legacy markets can start to figure out some of these things. The importance of it, right? The importance of it is they don't have HR departments. They don't have accounting departments. They're still trying to figure it out. But part of, I think, to get those type of markets, the older growers into a competitive area with the younger market, is this type of thing that Bookkeep does, right? It's like, look, I know you fear it, but if you want to get legal, if you want to go and make some of the money that people are making and not have to worry about all this, let us help you, do that thing. I just struggle sometimes because I feel bad because in my experience, they just seem to refute it. They just don't want those numbers written down, even if it's good for their business.
Well, we had at ShopKeep too. We had people, were like, "Well, where are my numbers going?" And what if I literally had, I think, some customer emailed saying, "What if the government asked for reports on our store?" I'm like,
"Well, you should be tracking it, and it should be transparent about this because that's the point of taking the report." Right.
Exactly.
I mean, BC is going to get upset, but I would be really, I'd feel really bad if I didn't bring up the point that blockchain technology is essentially a financial ledger that you are able to call every bit of data you need for the QuickBooks from it on every simple record of it. So in what ways are you guys seeing yourself wanting to emerge into the Web3, spaces? And how do you see the efficiencies of that happening on an even more automated scale, or putting those rules in a different way? Do you is the company looking forward into anything like that?
I'm a little bit, no, we're not really doing much with that. Like I said, I just got an emailed report that was printed out and then taken a picture of and sent to me. So
we're still doing PDFs, Dustin.
And PDF is great as long as it's printed from the machine. But that's just what you're dealing with. And like I said, a lot of these accountants, they might get a picture of the printed report from their client. And that's probably why we got it, because they didn't, they can't get the client to do what they need. So, so no, we're not, accounting is still extremely manual. I mean, there's a statistic, or just came out that 30% less people have took the CPA. I don't know if it was this year or last year, than they have in the past. Used to be 100,000 a year. I think it's 70 or something. People are not going into accounting because it's a miserable profession, because it's very manual, because it's a lot of long hours, it's a lot of difficult work. And it's not necessarily the numbers, but sometimes it is. It's like, I can't get the client to give me a stupid statement, so I can't get their books done. They just won't respond to me. Sometimes it's just that. Or they're mean. Sometimes they just treat their accountants like, you work for me and I know how to do it better. And I've seen it because I'm on both sides of it. And so it's still kind of, Web3 is not really a thing, I don't think, in accounting yet. It might be. It will be at some point, but
I think you overestimate, Dustin, what I get upset about. I don't get upset about it. I just don't know what you're talking about. And that's all. We talk about it every episode. It is not a episode that Dustin can't find a way to shoehorn blockchain into. It doesn't matter what it is. We can have like a comic book artist and be like, hey, let's shoehorn blockchain. That's all. We love you, Dustin.
Well, I just think of like,
I wish Jack Dorsey had gotten into blockchain earlier. At Square, then maybe he wouldn't have kicked our butt over at ShopKeep.
That's one of those really would haves. Like, gosh darn it, Dorsey.
Yeah.
Do you ever, have you taken, and I'm always curious about this because people who try to enter into a marketplace like cannabis from outside knowledge, right? They bring their knowledge, and we talk about a multitude of ancillary businesses are bringing those skills and applying it to this industry. Total side note, just because we just did one over the weekend. Do you do the trade show circuit in the cannabis industry? Have you ever done a cannabis-centric trade show trying to promote Bookkeep at bookkeep.com?
Not yet. We're probably going to try and go was House of Flowers in Palm Springs. And I forget the name of the one in Vegas in December.
MJ
BizCon.
MJ BizCon.
That's the big boy.
One. I think I'm going to go visit. I'm going to go visit that, and we won't have a booth, but we definitely, this cannabis. So we sell obviously to accountants, retail, restaurant, e-commerce. Cannabis dispensaries don't pick up what we're doing as quickly. And I do calls, we do sales calls. What our software does is not expensive. It's just a simple little add-on to help automate your day and take hours out of your day. But they're a little bit even slower to move, I think, in cannabis sometimes. I'm not sure why, but we're still learning and trying to get in there as much as we can. But our biggest business is on the e-commerce side. So a lot of what we're learning, e-commerce is more complicated. There's many more payment systems. Usually in e-commerce, you're selling through lots of different channels. So you might be selling on eBay and Shopify and Amazon Seller. And if you're selling on Amazon Seller, you might be selling in 4 or 5 different regions. And we handle that all with multi-currency and everything. So what we handle, for e-commerce is pretty complex. And cannabis is not as complex, but it's the same automation to help properly post your bookings.
Well, and you're really fairly priced for the amount of hours. When I think of all the hats I had to wear, and when I throughout a day, just getting the books reconciled at the end of the month was still an ordeal to me, and even with the rules that after 2 years we finally wrote into the QuickBooks to help with that, it still was a full weekend, or like it was an 8-hour Saturday or something like that. So if I think about the $60 cost a month to do this with you guys, or roughly whatever tier I'm at, it's an amazing for the amount of hours. For $60 I'm saving 10 hours, and that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars over value what I'm paying for this. So I think it's a pretty incredible service for that right.
And not just that cost, but it's just what it does is what you should think about in your business every day, which is everything done every day. Because if you let it wait till the end of the month, then it's a pain in the butt to deal with. And often if it comes to reconciling your payment accounts, you are not going to, you're going to be like, you know what, I'm going to fix it next month. And then it becomes next month.
Yeah. And 15 cents is still it's just as big of a problem as, 1,500 or 15,000. Like, my books are still not right. There is an error somewhere and we have to go back and fix it. So
exactly. And so you keep up with it daily. That's where you're also going to catch those potential theft. And you want to stay on top of it. So you want to use tools that can help you reconcile daily, whether it's your expenses or your revenue to your payment deposits. That's what, and when your staff know you're doing that, and when you know you're doing that, you feel pretty comfortable that you know what's going on in your business. Even if it doesn't have to have anything to do with P&L or balance sheet. It's really, it's pretty simple, and it'll help you find errors in what's going on at the point of sale potentially, or what users are doing. We find, with Shopify, for instance, there are ways in Shopify that you can sell stuff and not actually collect payment. And people, it doesn't happen that often, but it's a certain way you can create an order for a customer. And if you don't click complete order, they won't actually fully charge the credit card. And so we found customers who were like, no, my revenue was way more. And I'm like, no, you didn't close out these transactions 6 months ago, so you're not getting paid for them anymore. So, that's an example. In cannabis is different. You're getting paid at the point of sale, but that's just an example. There's all kinds of things where, mistakes happen. And so you catch mistakes by doing daily reconciliation.
And I think it's something one of the most, like when I worked in that retail chain, and one of the most amazing things I learned was about how credit card transactions and the huge delay sometimes in handling them and processing until you actually get paid and the amount you have to pay back, the debit versus Visa back things versus who charges what. And I think in Canada, isn't there some big thing happening in Canada right now where their credit card companies are putting some of the charges back onto the consumers, really further complicating that issue. I think that's something, that a lot of potentially cannabis POS dispensaries aren't aware of. They deal so much in cash right now, and some of it's digital payment, that if they would open up as more into the credit card realm, some of the other additional background issues with those payments and credit cards and balancing it, that right there seemed like a full-time job for this.
Just PCI compliant shit.
That stuff is going away now with the way the payment terminals work. But
oh, really?
Yeah, PCI compliance is not as important anymore. Well, it isn't. It's important, but it usually was around Windows machines, and now you have payment terminals that have encryption built in.
Oh, yeah, so that is awesome. I never put that together.
So that's not the issue. But when you think about it, the amount of money that they are spending in dispensaries to handle cash and feel safe with all that cash is much more than the 3% they're going to pay once you can eventually take credit cards.
Or 1% with blockchain.
Yeah. It does seem like blockchain people are, cannabis.
It doesn't make sense to not use it. Again, payments, tracking of inventory. It doesn't make sense to not be discussing it, in some capacity.
There is something to be said for, blockchain for transferring money. If it goes into blockchain and out.
Every business I've ever in the adult, I used to build websites for the adult industry. At that point, Visa was taking 70 cents on every dollar. 70 cents on every dollar. Not 3%, not 8%, 70 cents. So it was so outrageous. And then you move into, the head shop, and it took me 2.5 years to find a credit card processor that would legitimately do what they said they were going to do after building out my site in the way that they had needed it to be done. And I literally had to, after canceling contracts and battling them over what they didn't do, had to fly halfway across the country just to have a meeting with somebody to say, dude, come on. Like, if you do this, I'll send you to Hawaii. Like, it's been 3 years.
Was it in Orange County? County, California?
I actually...
Yeah, I feel like the casual drop of I used to build adult websites
in Orange County. And exactly.
They all were in Orange County. My first tech company was called Internet Cash. So my tech company in 1999, I didn't come up with the idea, but a friend of mine did. And we started this company where you could go to 7-Eleven, buy a $20 Internet Cash card, and Zappos accepted it. And, we had a bunch of sites accepting it. And yes, adult sites really wanted to get involved in that. So we were, but the whole market crashed before that could really happen. But we were in a lot of stores like phone cards, and you could buy these cards and shop online with them. And unfortunately though, we had to pay we got people to agree to 6%, margin when we sold it at the 7-Eleven, but they wanted 30% margin. So it was really not a great business. But I understand that space, but yet credit cards won out in the end. Still, they still.
But now Visa's building the blockchain to manage their transactions. So it's like,
I'm just glad phone cards
we're still going to use the same on-ramp we've always have, but it's that underlying technology that you forget about that is unseen that is going to be running the show. And that's kind of how I see Bookkeep. It's like this invisible codex tool that is deciphering these different softwares words essentially and putting them into a format that can be read in a way. And it's kind of neat to think of it in that sense. It is.
You are absolutely right in that. When we look at new point of sale systems and we get reports from them, a lot of systems, a lot of these guys don't know accounting. I mean, they can ring up a transaction, there's a total, there's the tax on top, but when it comes time to creating reports that people can use to reconcile, they don't really always know how to do that, or they just don't bother and they just haven't exported transactions. So yes, we turn that into, and accounting is very fixed. There is a certain way you do those entries. There's really no discussion. It's an accrual entry. This is what it looks like. So So we take all that stuff and convert it into proper entries. So it is true. I hope we can get as big as the payment processing space. I think that's a gigantic space, and it's also very legacy. But I do believe in blockchain actually for taking over some of that in cross-border money transfer. That is where it does make sense.
Yes.
I mean, as far as I know, I mean, I honestly have saved a lot of money by ignoring it for a long time, but because I have not lost any money or made any on it. So and haven't
you
really
can't
spent
lose
any
money
time
that you
reading.
haven't made. I like that theory.
Yeah, I haven't spent any time on it.
Yeah, if we're on the dating game, Jason, because you have to do this, right? So you have, I even think we were on the website the other day. Not that. Hold on here. I'm got a point. I'm getting there. We're on the website for a Bookkeep, bookkeep.com. You have like from back in the day, I feel like this was one of the first ways like software things was sold where you have like the dots and the checks of the layers of importance and how we compare. So we're on the dating game. You have a suitor who's sitting there. We got some fancy 70s music. That's enough for YouTube not to copyright us. And going on, someone's like, all right, Bookkeep, tell me why I should choose you and not these other people. Like, so what are your competitions? What's kind of our thing against? I'm sure there's other people out there in this space. Why bookkeep.com? Very simply, Jason.
Yeah, there are others in the space. There's really only one in the e-commerce space. There's one in the restaurant space that actually I know because I work with them at ShopKeep. We have a bigger vision. We want to connect to all systems, and in the cannabis space, there's really nobody. There's one small company that also connects to trees. I don't, but they they really only work with trees as far as I know. But we're really trying to be, because as an accountant and an accounting firm, you have clients that use all different systems. So I want, as Bookkeep, to be able to handle all those systems for you. So our goal is really to handle all of revenue accounting accurately, no matter where the sales or payments are coming from, and really, to grow and connect to all these platforms and ingest data any way we need to in order to make it accurate for the accountant. And really most of our competitors in e-commerce really are just focused on the big e-commerce players, and they don't do the payment side. So they don't have a PayPal connector. They don't decipher or ignore the PayPal transactions. They don't even touch the PayPal transactions, but we ignore PayPal. What PayPal says is a sale actually was a sale on Shopify, and PayPal is a payment method for that. And our system handles that, so there's no duplication, which if you're not paying attention, you connect the PayPal app and you connect our competitor, you're going to have double sales. Right.
Yes, which we've had happen over 8 years of running the books with that. Yes. And having to build the site in so many different ways to get the processing. Yes, it happens. And it happens easy.
It does, especially accountants don't always know when they connect an app what it's going to be doing. So so we have a big vision to really be everything for revenue accounting, and very accurate. But then we want to grow into any sort of accounting entries that an accountant has to either log in and run a report or log in and connect some app. We want to be the centralized data entry system. So you don't have to log in. You don't have to know how Gusto posts payroll and how to do all the settings on Gusto. So my payroll goes in. I'm just going to connect Bookkeep to Gusto, and it's going to work the same way it works for Shopify. I know exactly where the window is. I know exactly how their mapping screens work. I know how to connect. So I know how to make my connections in Bookkeep work. I don't need to know how Gusto works. I don't need to know how this other payroll system works. I don't need to figure out how Shopify's QuickBooks connection works, because Bookkeep's got it and I know how that works. So we want to be that layer for data entry across all accounting.
That is awesome. All right. Tell me real quick as we wrap up, Jason, bookkeep.com. When they go there, right, and they go and choose the plan, like what's kind of the process like? Give us a quick rundown, kind of the onboarding. Do you have to know a lot? Is it involved? Is it like, what's this process when we sign up for bookkeep.com to kind of onboard us and get this rolling in our software? What type of questions should we have prepared?
Well, for your customers or for your viewers who are most likely business owners, don't just assume, oh, my accountant handles that. When you assume your accountant handles that, they probably do, and they're probably miserable. So ask them, what automation are you using? Have you installed an automation for trees or for green bits or to get the data out? Well, there's Bookkeep, because everyone, we don't really work directly with businesses. I mean, we do if they come to us, but often if we were to sell to a small business, they'd be like, oh, no, my accountant does that, right? But they don't realize what their accountant is doing in order to get those numbers in. So really it's more for the small business, make sure your accountant has the tools they need to get the job done right. And if they're not getting your books closed, within 2 weeks after the close of the month, dig in there and be like, are you using automation? Do you need help? Are you not able to get the data you need? Like, why is it taking long to close the books? You should be friendlier to your accountant. And my wife, we have a wine store in Joshua Tree. And I see, when I say I see both sides of it, like I see how she interacts with our accountants for that. And I know our accountants because they're also Bookkeep customers. And I see that it's just, as a business owner, you're like, my accountant's going to deal with that. I don't want to deal with it. Like, and often you're just like, how could you not do this? Why didn't you get this done? And they just don't, they talk past each other. It's just kind of an interesting thing. So be nicer to your accountant in general is what I would say, or your bookkeeper / accountant.
Yeah, I think the new statement needs to be changed. Instead of happy wife, happy life, it's more like happy accountant, happy life.
Yeah.
That's a terrible rhyme. Like, that is not going to go. That's never going to be sold in Home Goods on one of those cheap wood racks. Like, never going to fit. Like, that's awkwardly phrased. Yep. Like, happy CPA. I don't know. We'll come up with something for that. I have to know, because I love to hear Dustin's like pros and cons of running. Because you think running a smoke shop or like running that would be cool, and there's some negatives. I'm always curious because I'm a fan of alcohol. Pros and cons of like running a wine business. Like, what is the thing that you love about it? And what's the one thing about the wine industry that is kind of a pain in the ass more than people realize?
Well, we have the wine store in Joshua Tree, and it's made us think about cannabis, but they don't, in Joshua Tree there's no cannabis dispensaries, but it's actually a really great business. The one downside of liquor or wine business is there really is a lot of competition, because there's so many options, but as a business you can do it with pretty limited staff who are pretty educated staff, so they're pretty reliable generally. You don't need so staffing is usually the biggest problem in any retail store, right? Getting staff to work there. So as a wine business, a lot of people work in our wine store just so they can interact with people and get a discount on wine. They put in a couple hours or several hours a week. So it's actually not a bad business. In New York City, where I used to have a store, they just keep letting more stores open on every corner, and you can only own one store in New York. So when there was the closest store was 3 or 4 blocks away, that was great. Now the closest store there's one on every block, and you are the same store. Your rent continues to go up and your sales are going down because there's more competition. So in New York State, it is a difficult business. And I tried to open one in Florida. That didn't go well because everyone goes to Publix to buy their wine, or So
they have those ABC liquors thing there too.
That's the hard part. But otherwise, it's a and that guy, that store exactly. So you have to know your customers. We are really wine, 95% wine, and we have a little liquor. But honestly, I've had a wine store since 2004 in different places. My wife runs this one completely herself, but which is why the graphic design and everything is perfect. But I did set the software, so that's the part I like.
There you go. That's what we're talking about. All right, Jason Richelson, CEO of Bookkeep, bookkeep.com. We're going to have the link, obviously, to the site down below. You're going to hit subscribe, though, on your way down to visit bookkeep.com. Try and make your life a little more automated, especially in the back end. Make your accountants. Like, we're still working on that. If you have an idea for a kind of plaque that you would see in like a Home Goods or a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's or a pick your artistic. So what's the other one? I had another one. Sam's Club, maybe. One of those signs like life, love, live. Happy accountant. Gosh darn, that's a hard word. Come up with us. Help us out. Put something in the comments below. Give us a catchy phrase to make your accountant's life happy. Shout out to you, Shani, by the way. I talked about you a lot. You're not even watching it, but I remember you. Anyway, Jason, thank you for joining us, bookkeep.com. Dustin, great to see you as well as always every Friday. Every Friday, 4:20 p.m., Wayward Media, wayward.media, brand new Because Cannabis show. You never know who we're going to have coming up next, just like Jason from bookkeep.com. Thank you, Jason, for joining us. Everybody else, take care. We'll talk to you next week.
All right.